Good evening and welcome to the Sunday evening Forex breakdown. My name is Gail Mercer and I will be your hostess tonight. Please take just a moment to read over the Nadex risk disclaimer. The most important aspect is that you should never trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. Now, can everyone just type in a yes in the window just to make sure that you are seeing my screen and that you can hear me? Oh, great. Thank you all for doing that for me. I appreciate it. Now, for those of you that do not know me, my name is Gail Mercer. I am the founder of TradersHelpdesk.com. I started trading Forex about 15 years ago and just absolutely fell in love with the market. I was working a full-time job when I started trading, so I actually learned to trade Forex during London. That was well over 15 years ago. Now, I'm also the author of Trading Nadex Binary Options, Keeping It Simple Strategies, The New Trader's Guide to Trading Nadex Binary Options and Spreads, Trading Nadex Binary Options Using Currencies, and Trading Nadex Binary Options and Spreads Using Candlestick Patterns. I've also been a prior speaker at the Wyckoff Volume Conference, the Traders World Online Expo, Traders Expo, TradeStation User Group. I do specialize in candlestick price formations, support, resistance, and volume analysis. I would encourage you to visit TradersHelpdesk.com to learn more about me, the indicators I use, and the products that I offer. You can also always contact me at gm@tradershelpdesk.com as well. Now, the first thing that I actually want to go over tonight is actually the Nadex products. You can see they have indice binaries, Forex binaries, call spreads, as well as 5 minutes in the touch brackets. I trade all of these, okay? Tonight, we will probably be more focused on setups for binaries or for touch brackets. And I'm going to show you how I kind of evaluate which one I will use, okay? But keep this in mind as you're looking at the charts tonight. I will explain the difference between me choosing a binary versus a touch bracket, okay? Now, the first thing that I do when I'm starting to look at the markets is actually go to forexfactory.com and look at their calendar. The calendar impacts your trading week, and that's the reason I rely on this calendar to tell me what my schedule is going to be like. So, for example, on Monday, the Swiss franc and the euro have holidays, okay, in France and Germany as well as Switzerland. Now, tonight, the Aussie has a holiday. So that tells me, okay, I'm not going to be trading the Aussie tonight. And tomorrow morning, I'm probably not going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and trade because the market's going to be a little bit slower. Hi, can you give me some advice for 5-minute binary options? At what time do you trade the 5-minute binary options? I generally trade them early in the morning, Daniel. You do need some experience to trade 5-minute binary options. We did a session last week where we used 5-minute binary options, and I run a live market analysis and coaching room on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and we did some 5-minute binaries in there. And, you know, it is a faster pace. We use exactly the same thing that I'm showing you tonight. We just do it in a faster time frame. That's it. Okay. Now back to the market reports. You do see that tomorrow morning on the British pound, you do have a couple of 4:30 market reports. Then on Tuesday, you also have some market reports on the British pound. Wednesday, you have the ECB president speaking. So I always open the details for his speech to see, like, are there going to be questions? And, you know, what is the topic of his speech, okay? In this case, he's due to deliver opening remarks at the conference on Central, Eastern, and Southeastern European countries in Frankfurt. Now, it doesn't say that there's any questions expected, so yeah, there could be some volatility based on what he says, okay? But overall, it's probably not going to move the market unless he comes out with a surprise, okay? Then at 8:30 in the morning, we have the CPI and the core CPI, and then at 9:30, we have the employment change and unemployment rate for the Aussie. On Thursday morning, we have the SNB Monetary Policy Assessment and Press Conference. If you're trading the USD Swiss franc, you might want to watch out for that one if they come out with a surprise. Normally they don't, but the one time that they did, it devastated a lot of accounts. Then on Friday morning at 8:30, we do have core retail sales and retail sales on the USD side. And then at 8:55, we have the Bank of England governor speaking. Again, expand that to see what the topic is and are they expecting questions, especially right now with Brexit. If he comes out and was talking about Brexit, it could move the markets. Okay. Now, generally, I trade Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And in this case, there's not a lot that is going to affect my trading this week. Okay. Does everybody understand that? I mean, it's, as far as market reports go, it's a pretty light week. So the next thing that I'm going to do is start looking at charts, and we're going to start with the Aussie dollar, the Aussie yen, because this is going to kind of show you when I decide to trade a binary versus when I try to trade a touch bracket. Okay. Daniel, you're asking where I can find the video. Are you talking about the sessions that I had last week? They're only available to subscribers of the coaching sessions. Okay, so number one, what I'm looking at on the Aussie yen is this is overextended, and that tells me that more likely than not they need to test for resistance. Now, normally they're going to go back up here to test the ATR. You do have to watch the blue line. It is a 20-period moving average that has a smoothing algorithm on it. So it could act as resistance, but I would expect this to go back to 78.15, especially considering that this is overextended. Now, when I look over to the daily chart, you can see that this has moved up. It's got, my dog is snoring back there. It's got about 50 pips. No, not even that. About 30 pips left to move back to this ATR before it starts to come down. But overall, this is telling me a potential upward movement. This is telling me, there's still some upward movement there. And when I look down to the 360, what I expect to see is that, okay, this flips the ATR, which it has done. It went from red to blue. Now I expect it to come back and try to test that ATR. That would tell me, okay, this is holding, okay? In other words, they have found support. So if you're looking at this tonight, from where this red dot is back down to this ATR is 68 pips, okay? That means I'm probably going to use a 2-hour binary on this one versus a touch bracket. But when it gets back to this ATR, if that ATR holds, okay, and what do I mean by that? I mean, okay, you're going to get a candlestick reversal pattern. Preferably you would get some kind of divergence on the stochastics, or it would be oversold. That would make me want to enter it. Okay. Now, if that happens between that area back up to this first area of potential resistance, that's 89 pips. To me, that would be a touch bracket because it has the potential to go up 159 pips. Does everybody understand how I look at that? In other words, this is my counter trend trade, okay? It would be back down to the ATR, which is, if it moves the entire distance, is only 68 pips. Then my trend trade would be up to either this blue line or this blue line. My best case scenario would be 159 pips, but it could just be 89 pips. Do y'all understand that? And that's what I base it, whether, okay, do I want to trade a 2-hour binary or do I want to trade a touch bracket? And sometimes if the setup is right on the trend trade, which would be the one at 89.4 or 159, I will take both the binary options and the touch brackets, okay? Any questions on that? And this is really cool because we couldn't do this in regular Forex, but with Nadex and all the different types of products, I mean, for that matter, you could go in with a call spread as well. Okay, so you could have 3 trades off of one good trade setup. So basically, I do think we're going to get a little bit of downward move, but then we're going to go probably to the upside on the yen. Now, the rest of the charts, you won't see this on there. I just did that so that you would understand, okay? Would you trade a spread if the touch bracket was not available on the Aussie yen? I would, Michael. And the Aussie yen doesn't have touch brackets. It was just the first one I was going through, and I wanted to explain it to you. But another way, Michael, because this doesn't have touch brackets, you could do the call spreads, but you could also not only do 2-hour binaries, but you could also do what? You could do dailies. I mean, let's face it, Nadex gives us so many dailies. You know, you got the 7 a.m., you got the 11 a.m., you got the 3 p.m., the 7 p.m., the 11 p.m., and the 3 a.m. So, you know, you have 6 dailies every day, and then you have the weekly. You know, if you think this move is going to last the week, you could even go out on the weekly. So you could actually build binary options as these trades progress through the week. And I've done that before. Okay, let's go over to the Aussie dollar. Okay, and over here, you know, you're right at the slow moving average and the medium term moving average. Now, this may make it back to the 7105 area, which is the ATR, but I'm also going to watch 7033 and the bar forming here. But this is a weekly, so I mean, we literally have the entire week for this current bar to play out, okay? So this is not telling me a lot, it's just telling me where my potential resistance is, okay? When I go down to the daily, you see that you're at this congestion dot. That tells me that more likely than not, we will come back either to the ATR at 69.18, but I do need to watch the blue moving average at 69.55. Now, that is enforced with this bar building as a bearish bar and this turning to the downside, meaning, okay, we were overextended, so now we need to come down some. They need to test for support in order to give them more power to push up. When I look down to the Aussie 360, the very first thing that would actually strike me would be the divergence between these highs, okay? Because that tells me, hey, if they're going to test for resistance, this is an opportune time for them to do that, okay? So where would the first area be for potential support? It would be 69.61. The next area would be the ATR at 69.22. But again, you need to watch this blue line but that is equal to this gray line that's already on my chart. Does everybody understand that? So that's why I'm not marking that blue line, because it's already on here. That's the slow moving average over on the 360. Okay, so we have the potential to come down to either 69.60, 69.50, or even 69.22. Okay, now when it gets here, if this area acts as a support area, what's going to happen? More than likely, it will take out 70.22 on the way up to the ATR here at 71.09. Okay, but I do think, based on patterns, it does have a tendency to come down to 69.18. That's the potential area. On the euro yen, you can see that we're turning up here. What does that mean to me? That means that we need to go back and test for resistance, which more likely than not would be the ATR at 125.14. When you look over to the daily chart, you do see that you're at the ATR, not quite overextended yet. I think we might have a chance of going up to 123.62 before this comes down. There is a potential for that to happen. Okay, now you can also see over here we're overextended already. That simply tells me that we need to test for support. The support will likely either come in at the blue moving average at 122.23 or 121.85, which is where the ATR is. Okay, now if that does happen, this is your counter trend trade. Okay, your trend trade on the 360 would actually be if it came to the ATR, formed support, and then it has the potential to go up to the 123.62 area. Does everybody see that? Now, you can always measure that. It's really easy in TradingView by just clicking on the price range, going up and measuring it. That would be 170 pip move. Now, again, you don't have touch brackets on the euro yen, okay, but you could do call spreads. You could do 2-hour binaries. You could do dailies. You could even do a weekly, because remember, the upward movement would be a trend trade on the 360, okay? All right, let's go and look at the euro dollar. The euro dollar is actually over here at the ATR. And remember, that's an area of potential resistance if it is above price, or potential support if it is below price, okay? In this case, it is above price, so this could act as a potential resistance area. When you go down to the daily, you can see that they have broken through the red dot as well as the ATR, but that normally indicates that they're going to come back and test to make sure there is support to push price further up. That's also confirmed because you're almost at the point of being overextended on the stochastics. Now remember, tomorrow is a holiday, okay? So I would be looking at this to occur probably on Tuesday, okay? And what you can see right now, and again, this is something that really stands out at me, is that you're making lower highs on the stochastics, but you're making higher highs in price. So if they're going to test for a support area, it's probably going to happen, you know, tonight into tomorrow. It's going to be slow tomorrow, but during the U.S. session, they may come back and test 1264 all the way down to 1181. But if these areas hold, then that means more likely than not they may continue up to 1512. Okay, so again, if you just measure that, okay, from where it is right now back to the ATR is 74 pips, back to the blue line is about 132 pips. Okay, but once it gets to, let's just measure from the ATR. Let's see, price range. If we come over here and measure just from the ATR up to the second red line, that would be a 259 pip move. And that would be a touch bracket for me. ATR stands for average true range. These are my proprietary indicators. It just tells me that the algorithm I used was an ATR. Any questions on the euro dollar? Now, you know, that would be a pretty substantial move. That's probably going to be a touch bracket on Forex. Okay. Let's go and look at the British pound yen. The British pound yen, again, you see this is very overextended. Okay. I would be anticipating them to go back and test for a resistance area. Again, I would anticipate that to be the ATR at 143.68. When you go over to the daily, you can see that this retracement has already kicked off. It kicked off of the divergence that was right here at the bottom. Now, the first area that it's going to hit would be 138.98, which is this blue line over here. Okay, and this one has a setup that I really like to trade, because this one is the dots here, this line of red dots. Okay, normally that acts as a potential resistance area. It's going to push that back either to 137.63 or to the ATR. I would think it's the ATR, but we'll see, because this is already overextended. So that would be 137.19. Again, using the same thing that I've been saying. If you measure from where price is now down to the potential of the ATR, that's 86 pips. Okay, so that tells me, okay, that's probably going to be maybe a touch bracket. But what if it goes down there and forms support? Okay, if it forms support, then to go back up to this ATR would be 180 pips. But if they decided to take it all the way up to the red line, again using the same measurement line, that's potentially a 600 pip move. Do y'all understand that now? And this is what I'm always measuring. I'm always saying, when I go to enter a trade, what's my profit potential? Okay, and this is, you know, what it's showing you. That's the profit potential. Doesn't mean you'll get it. It just means that's the potential of it. Okay. Now, if we come down to the British pound US dollar, for those of you that have been following me, I've been waiting for this to touch that congestion dot. It finally did, and it is overextended on the stochastics. Okay, so I'm anticipating this to either go back to the blue moving average, which is 28.33, or even up to the ATR at 30.72. Okay, if 30.72 holds and it acts as resistance, we could see another downward move. When I look over to the daily, okay, you see that again that divergence kicked that retracement off. Now it went up to the 27.64, but it seems like it may have developed a resistance area. You can see that, I think, a little bit plainer over on the 360, because as you're making new highs, you can see over there it's actually making lower highs. And you also have this dot here, okay? Typically that dot tells me we're going to come down to 1.2669. Again, you want to watch that area, because if that area develops as a support area, then you could actually go up to at least potentially this blue line. So again, measuring that, that's about a 95 pip move. Okay, but if it goes up to the next area, okay, then you have a potential of about 193 pips. Okay, so that would be, again, if that support area holds, that would be your trend trades. Okay, but what happens, hey, if it doesn't hold and it comes down? Okay, coming down to the ATR would be 94 pips, but if they came all the way back down to test this line, that would be a 200 pip move. Okay, and that's if this does not hold. But my calculation for profit potential would be that ATR, because this one I still think will probably go up. Let's go look at the USDCAD. Did anybody have any questions on that one? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. Now, last week, you can actually see, and this is something we've been watching, is you actually got that little bitty divergence there on the USDCAD. Okay, it kicked it back to this ATR. Okay, the question is whether that ATR is going to hold. Okay, we don't know that yet. We don't have enough information to determine that. We go over to the daily Canadian. You see that you are overextended. So my anticipation would be that it would go back and it would try to test for resistance. The potential resistance area would be 34.53 or the blue moving average as well, which right now is 33.95. When we go and we look at the 360, do you see how you're overextended here as well? So that tells me that more than likely we're going to move up to this ATR. Okay. So moving up to this ATR would be about 100 pips. If it goes up to the red dot, that would be 151 pips. If it goes up to the blue line, that would be 185 pips. Now, on the USD Canadian, the 2-hour binary options do not open until 8 a.m. So this one, if you believe that the Canadian dollar will potentially go up, you would have to revert to either a daily or a weekly to be able to capture a portion of that move. Any questions on the USDCAD? Okay, let's go look at the USD Swiss franc. Now the USD Swiss franc does have just a little bit of room to get down here to 98.30. Okay, that's where the dot is. But do you see how you're already overextended? What is that telling us? It's telling us anytime a market's overextended, basically what it is saying is, traders that have been in this move are going to be taking profits. That's where they're going to be testing for. In this case, they would be testing for a resistance area. Okay, so they could potentially come back to 1.0130. Okay, you can also see over here, you're right at the point of being overextended, and they've come back and they've tried to test this low. They were not successful. Okay, that indicates to me that we may get a potential move back up to test just to see if there's a resistance zone there that could push this down. That resistance zone right now would potentially be about 1.022, but you're going to have to overcome this ATR first, okay, and that's at 99.54. That means they're going to have to flip this and then go right back and test for support. And right now we don't have enough information to determine how that's going to play out. So right now I wouldn't touch the Swiss franc. Any questions on the USD Swiss franc? you know, the only one that tells me for certain that it's going to go up is probably this one on the daily and the weekly, but the 360 is not yet aligned for that. When it's not aligning properly, I don't trade it. Let's go and look at the USD yen. And again, you're seeing that you're really overextended on the yen. Now, what I would anticipate, again, would be that it would either test 109.50 or 110.90. Okay? You also see that you've had divergence here at the bottoms. You're also getting this pink dot here. That should push it back up to the ATR. Now, a lot of times when that happens, when you're looking at this moving average, okay, they will break through it, but they'll come back and test it. And it's a pattern that we watch develop over and over. Sort of like over here, they broke above it, but then they had to come back and test it. And usually that test, do you see how it reverted in this double low pattern? That's usually what happens, and that's what's going to push that market up, okay? All they're doing is looking for an area that is going to support increases in prices, okay? So we have this, and it's saying, yeah, more than likely it's probably going to go up. You have divergence between the RSI. You even have divergence on the ADX. But what I would anticipate is for them to break through this ATR. Now, you don't want to go in really before they break through that ATR, because that ATR can provide resistance, okay? So it's very important that they overcome the resistance, that they test for the support, and then you can measure to the upside. It's not there yet. It's probably going to develop, you know, later on in the week. Again, I would think probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, maybe even tomorrow night, okay? Any questions? Okay, before we leave, I would like to just, again, invite you to visit my website at www.tradershelpdesk.com, or send me an email if you have any questions at gm@tradershelpdesk.com, or even reach out by phone at 336-263-0122. You may get my voicemail. If you do, just leave me a message and I will get back with you. I do appreciate all of you taking the time to join me tonight, and I hope you have a wonderful trading week, okay?